Good morning.
Good morning.
My topic this morning is the wellspring of intuition. I apologize to those who thought my topic was going to be the intuition of a rock. It's a little joke for those of you who were here when I spoke in May. I speculated on whether rocks have consciousness and could think and what that might be like and what the qualities of their thought would be. But I just didn't know because no rock has spoken to me about it yet. And so I joked that maybe I'll come back in August and speak on the intuition of a rock. Well, the rocks still aren't speaking to me, so I still have no idea what their consciousness is, although I was serious when I said that I do think they have it, so I really can't speak on the intuition of the rock. I made a good effort, faith effort to try. The talk just never came. Now, all of our New Thought teachings are based in some way on the healing work of Phineas Parkhurst Quimby, the healing work that Phineas Parkhurst Quimby did in the middle of the 19th century. Now, when a patient came into Dr. Quimby's office, Quimby didn't, as we do today, ask, well, what can I do for you? Or something like that. Quimby would sit quietly for a while and then tell the patient what was wrong, as well as what the patient's mental state was. Then he talked to the patient about the errors in his or her thinking, corrected that thinking, and thus effected a healing. Now, one of our New Thought teachers told a story about a truth student, a New Thought student, who went to a famous racetrack with a group of relatives. Now, she wasn't interested in racing at all, and she didn't plan to bet. She only went in order to see the flowers and the scenery around the place, because it was supposed to be very beautiful. Now, on the way there, she had a strong hunch, and she told the others in the car, I see number 7 in the 7th race coming in ahead of all the other horses. Well, everyone in the car ignored her. Well, what did she know? I guess they just thought of her as that weird aunt with all the nutty ideas. So they didn't pay any attention. And when it came time to bet on the 7th race, she gave her nephew some money to place on number 7. Well, the horse came in just as she'd visioned in the car, a full length ahead of the other horses. And when she asked her nephew for her money, he said, I'm sorry, but I placed your money on another horse that I felt sure was better. And that horse didn't win anything. Now, what happened next isn't reported, but I can just imagine. Well, how do things like this happen? How could Quimby diagnose his patients and know their mental states without hearing their stories or asking them any questions? And how could the truth student know which horse to pick without studying racing forms and track conditions and weather and all of the other hocus pocus that people do when they go to the track? Well, I think his intuition enabled them to do these things. Now, intuition is defined as the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. And Dr. Ernest Holmes wrote, the intelligence in an animal which directs its actions and tells it where to go to find food and shelter, we call instinct. It is really omniscience in the animal. The same quality, more highly developed, makes a conscious appearance in man and is what we call intuition. Intuition is God in man, revealing to him the realities of being. And just as instinct guides the animal, so would intuition guide man if he would allow it to do so. And when we function from pure intuition, we instantly know without having to go through any process of reasoning, because there is some place within us which is forever one with the all. One with the all. And that's really the key. But what does this really mean? I think understanding what this really means will bring us to the source of intuition, to its wellspring. You know I get there sooner or later. I just had to tell it in my own way. According to the dictionary, a wellspring is an original and bountiful source of something. The wellspring of intuition is the universal subconscious mind and its interaction with what we call our individual subconscious mind, which makes this a perfect time to review what we know about our mind and how it works. Now, I talk about this in every lesson. Every lesson, no matter what the topic is, no matter what the application is, because it's so fundamental to all of the work that we do to manifest greater good in our lives, as well as our ability to use something like intuition in the many ways that we do, or at least can do. Whether or not we actually do it is a different story. Now, when we talk about our mind, we're usually talking about our conscious mind. And this is the mind we use to perceive the world around us. It's the mind we use to think. It's the mind we use to make choices. We use it to weigh values, weigh reasons for and against, to judge, to decide, to choose what we want to be, do, and have. And to choose the thoughts we want to think. And these choices are very, very important. They're important because they ultimately determine what our experience is going to be by determining the ideas we introduce into our subconscious mind. Now, that's one part of the story. The rest of the story is the subconscious mind. Always remember, though, that we're dealing with one mind and not two minds. There's only one mind, and these are really different phases, different ways that the one mind works. And we use the terms for convenience to talk about those different ways in which our mind works. Now, subconscious mind has these qualities. It's the creator of our experiences. It has no power of choice, taking what the conscious mind has given it and acting upon that. It's the maintainer of the body. It's the storehouse of experience, both our own individual experience and the experience of the race, by which we mean everyone who now lives or who has ever lived. And finally, it's the loom that weaves thought into thing. It creates our experience. Now, by the way, I borrowed this particular description of conscious and subconscious mind from Dr. Frederick Bales. And Dr. Bales was an early leader in the religious science movement who had an exceptionally clear way of expressing the teaching. Now, in his book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, another great teacher we've had in our history, Dr. Joseph Murphy, writes, "You have infinite riches within your reach. To gain them, all you have to do is open your mental eyes and behold the treasure house of infinity within you. There is a storehouse within you from which you can extract everything you need to live life gloriously, joyously, and abundantly." Now, this storehouse that he's talking about is the subconscious mind. And within this storehouse is our capacity for intuition. So when we talk about the subconscious mind, we're talking about something infinite that works in infinite ways and is therefore totally unlimited in the ways it can create our lives and can create in our lives. And I won't get started about infinity because then I would have to explain to you why it's logically impossible for you to walk from your chair to the door. And it is, by the way. But I've done that before here several times. I don't want to bore you with it again. Besides, you're just going to refute my argument by getting up and walking to the door. Maybe even earlier than you'd originally planned to do it. Well, why should this be so? What does our subconscious mind have to do with the infinite? In the Science of Mind textbook, Dr. Holmes writes, and remember that subjective means subconscious. Two ways to say the same thing. Subjective mind is subconscious mind. Subconscious mind is subjective mind. But he writes, within us then, there is a creative field which we call subjective mind. And around us, there is a field which we call universal subjectivity. One is universal, the other individual, but in reality, they are one. There is one mental law in the universe, and where we use it, it becomes our law because we have individualized it. Everyone is universal on the subjective side of life and individual only at the point of conscious perception. Now, we use the power of the universal mind every time we think. Now, this universal subjectivity is infinite and contains within it all possibility. Now, we're one with it, and because we are one with it, as we think, this possibility becomes available to us. Now, remember that Dr. Holmes said that when we function from pure intuition, we need not go through any reasoning process because there is that place within us which is one with the all. And all means all. All power, all wisdom, timeless, limitless. And so why then should we be surprised that Quimby could immediately, intuitively diagnose his patients, or that the student picked the winning horse, or that any of the experiences of intuition that you've had or heard about could happen? I would say think about it in this way. Spirit, through this universal subjectivity, responds to us by corresponding to our thought, creating in our lives whatever we have an idea of. Whatever we have an idea of, what we call a mental equivalent. Now, if we have a mental equivalent of intuitive knowledge, if we're open to it, then why would we not expect it? Why shouldn't we expect it and experience it? After all, you would be doing it through your subconscious, through your consciousness. You would be doing it through your thought, doing it through the thought patterns in your consciousness. And your acceptance would make it a part of the normal activity of the creative process operating in you. So I want to close with a story. It's not a long, drawn-out story. It's just a little story. Two men were walking down a city street one day talking, and suddenly one of them stopped, and he said, "Listen, a cricket." Well, both men stood still and perked up their ears, and sure enough, a tiny cricket was singing away. It was hidden under a plant at the sidewalk's edge, and the friend asked, "How did you hear that? It's such a tiny sound. I never would have noticed it." And the man who had heard the cricket said, "Well, most folks don't listen for the music of a cricket. They have their hearts set on something else." So then he took a penny out of his pocket. And just as a group of men passed by, he tossed the penny onto the sidewalk. Hit the sidewalk with a tiny little ping. And every man turned to look. And he said to his friend, "See, it all depends on what you are listening for. So I'll ask you, what are you listening for?" That's my lesson on intuition. Thank you.